I am not a poet. I don't write poems. I read a poem every now and again. Other than writing a handful of poems for school back in the day, I really don't have that much experience. So, why am I attempting to write a poem every day for the next 30 days? Well, I don't know that's necessarily that I want to get into poetry, though that may sound kind of strange, but it's because I like to write novels. Like, that's where my passion is, that's what I enjoy doing. I am currently revising a thriller novel, and I'm in the late stages of the kind of developmental edits. And so the next stage will really be honing in on the language, the prose, the line level word choice. And that is honestly my weakest point in writing. I feel like I'm decently good at coming up with plots, at coming up with characters, at coming up with character arcs, but it's really that word choice, that line level writing where I feel like I am the weakest. So I'm hoping that by turning to poetry and reading poems and writing poems for 30 days, I can get the confidence and improve my, metaphors and figurative language for this next round of revision on my novel. I don't have any expectation for the poems that I'm going to be writing. I'm going to do whatever I feel like writing that day. Maybe I'll try some rhyming schemes, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll throw in some iambic pentameter, maybe I won't. Maybe it'll all be free verse. Some of them might be haikus, some of them might be long, some of them might be short. We're just going to go for whatever I feel like writing that day, and I'm really just going to give myself the freedom to do whatever I feel like doing. So now, before I psych myself out, I'm going to sit down and we're going to write poem number 1. We are already on day 5, so I'm about to sit down and write my 5th poem for this challenge, and it's going pretty good so far. So I've been writing my poems in my journal, and so I have journaled a lot in the past, so I feel like it's been kind of interesting because I've taken the topics that I would normally journal about, and those are the types of things that I am now trying to create poems for. And typically when I journal, I'm pretty much like, this is how I feel, this is what happened. So having to think more abstractly about those things to put it into a poem has been like a fun challenge. But because I am using a lot of topics that I would usually journal about, they have been a little bit personal, but I really want to share some of the poems that I'm writing with you. So I'm going to read one of them out that's like maybe a little bit less personal. This one's about my family dog that passed away a couple years ago. His name was Boku, Boku. He was a yellow lab. And so, yeah, without further ado, I remember you through photographs and polished memories of your bark and my laughs, when I would hide and you would seek behind a bush or a fence or a tree and wag your tail when you found me. Now I look for you in the eyes of every dog I see. I look for glimmers and signs to remind me. But it's never quite the same because no dog will ever be you. So that's just one of the ones I've written. I was starting to lose some momentum on just like coming up with what the poem should be about because some days I've been thinking about it like throughout the day. So when it came time to write my poem in the evening, I already had an idea. Maybe I even jotted down some notes in my phone. But there's been other nights where I literally just sit and I have to come up with it. Like, I don't really have a super clear idea of what I want to write today, for example. What I decided to do actually is do a poem with a lot of sections. So it's like when you add those 2 slashes, and it's a longer poem with kind of little snippets, little vignettes. So I don't know if that's cheating, if that I'm necessarily building a poem over multiple days, if that counts. But this is my challenge. I get to do what I want, so that's what I'm going to do. But I really like this idea because it's making me push myself to think about a specific topic in a lot of different ways, and I can revisit it over multiple days and see based on, how the day went. Maybe I'll be feeling differently about that topic. I haven't read a lot of poems in the past, so I didn't know that this was a thing, this thing with the double slash, until I started reading. So I have been reading some poetry for this. In high school, I took a literature class and we read a lot of more like old school poetry. That was obviously very beautiful, very good. But I really wanted to try and push myself to read more contemporary poets. So I've been reading Homie by Danez Smith, and I've really been enjoying it because they do really interesting stuff with format. So for example, here's the poem with the slashes, right? So their topic was dogs, and then kind of you have all these little sections. I'm doing more of a couple stanzas between each of those sections. But yeah, like for example, they have like an entire poem that's just on a slant. They have one, this one's really cool, where they have a poem within a border of writing. But I've been really enjoying it. But I want to do more than just read poems, because at the end of the day, like I can read them and be like, wow, that was good, but I can't critically say a lot about it. So I've also started reading a poetry handbook by Mary Oliver. I've really just been reading the front matter to start, which has mostly just been about like getting ready, imitation, the importance of reading, poems and stuff as you're writing poems. So hopefully as time goes on, I can also think a bit more critically and make my poems better. I don't want to write this poem, but my mama didn't raise no quitter, so I'll write words even when they taste bitter. I don't want to write this poem because day after day I don't think I'm getting better. Now I can't even think of a rhyme for better. I don't want to write this poem. My figurative language still leaves something to be desired. This whole exercise leaves me feeling so tired. We are on day 9, so almost 1/3 of the way through this challenge, but we are going to change up the strategy. So before this, I was really just trying to get a poem a day, whatever would come out that day, whatever I want to write. But I've just been feeling very complacent in the sense that the whole point of this, like the goal is to write a poem a day, but that's not the result that I want. Like the result that I want is to be better at figurative language, to think more about word choice, about sentence structure, that sort of thing, for revising my novel. And I don't think I'm getting that. Like I don't think I'm making any kind of improvement. Like I'm kind of just writing where I'm at. So I'm taking this Mary Oliver book a bit more seriously, where now I'm starting to enter more the technical stuff. So what I've decided is every day I'm going to apply that chapter's technical aspect. So yesterday's chapter was about sounds. So just thinking about how different words sound and how they sound together. But today is about the line. So it's thinking about things like length and rhythm. So I think I might be doing some iambic pentameter today, bringing in my William Shakespeare. Maybe I'll read some Shakespeare today too to get into the zone. But yeah, I finished Homie, which was really great. I'm debating if I should read more contemporary poets, or because I really want to improve the language that I'm writing with, I was also going to potentially start reading the Book of Delights by Ross Gay, because even though these are essays, the writing itself is very poetic in how it's written. So this may actually help me a lot more in terms of like getting the line level writing that maybe I want for my novel. So it is poem time, and today we get to write our poem in an insanely beautiful place, because yesterday Jonah and we walked out to this cabin in the mountains in Alaska, and we get this beautiful view of this mountain range and a lake. And it's gotten even better because the sun is out, so it is warm, it is above freezing, as well as the fact that the wind has finally died down. The wind's been pretty insane. And so I just want to sit out here and write my poem. But I have to say, I am a little bit stuck on what I want to write, because I feel like I want to describe, where I am and how I feel. But being in a place like this, it is almost like beyond words for me. Like I consider myself a writer, but when I see something so beautiful, it's sometimes like the emotions that I feel, it's impossible to put them into words. So we're going to try. I don't know if I'll be very successful. And another thing I want to do is I want to stop thinking about all of the technicalities of poems, because I've been doing a lot of like rhyme schemes and line work recently, where I'm thinking about rhythm, I'm thinking about, iambs and how many syllables to put in a line and that sort of thing. And I feel like it's restricting a lot of my thoughts and feelings because I'm trying to fit it within the constraints of something. So I think today we're just going to go for it. We're going to do whatever comes out, maybe a bit stream of consciousness. Maybe I want to try and find some sort of pattern to structure it around. Welcome to one of the most beautiful places on earth. You know, even if my figurative language doesn't get better, even if I'm not writing better poems by the end of this month, because I don't know that I really am progressing as much as I thought I would, nobody can take away from the fact that I have written 20 poems. 20 poems. I mean, I did technically miss one day. It was around like day 12 or 13. I was like out in the evening, and I used to write my poems in the evening, and I got back late and I just forgot. So when I woke up in the morning, I was like, oh shoot. So I wrote one immediately in the morning and then wrote one that night. So that's the only time I technically didn't succeed, but I still count it. It's still okay. And the fact that I've been able to write a poem for 20 days straight is kind of crazy. I mean, I do have a secret weapon. Any night where I'm just exhausted, like tonight, I've written a haiku. So I'm gonna have to write 3 lines, very quick, very easy, and debating doing that for tonight because I'm exhausted because the last few days I've been away from home again doing field work. So I can't wait to be home. But yeah, I wanted the update that I don't know that I'm gonna get any better, but I'm happy that I am trying. So on that note, I thought I'd share a poem that I wrote a little while ago about trying. This poem is from April 17th and it's called Seen Trying. What is the point of anything if one won't try, won't brawl and squirm with all their might? The world won't give its riches to a random guy. The riches are free, but we must fight. Yet to be seen to try is awfully bold. A crowd will give judgment. Alone, no risk to choose to fold, or risk embarrassment. So I cannot show my humble attempts, but if I do not try, they will destroy all of my passion with their veiled contempt, a daily battle of my fear versus joy. I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit because on my way back from Ketchikan, as I was traveling, I stepped into this bookstore for just like a few minutes. I was looking at some of the poetry collections they had, and I really wish I had remembered the title or the author. Do you refer to someone who writes poems as an author? Maybe not, I don't know, I'll have to look it up. But I flipped open this collection to a random page and I read the poem just to see what it was like, and I really liked it. And because I've been so focused on the nuts and bolts of poetry, I went and looked at what rhyme scheme they had, and I was pleasantly surprised, shocked even, when as I read the last word of each line, it created a new sentence. They made a whole sentence out of the last word of each line, and then it kind of repeated with slight differences in all the different stanzas in that poem, and that was so cool. So I think the poem I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to try and do that with. I'm just headed now out to do some pickup frisbee, so I don't have time right now, but when I get back, I think I'm going to try and write it. Flowers bloom in a rainbow of color, and grass tickles my feet as I breathe in deeply the changing air to lift my mood. But as I lift my face to the sun, its ray flickers behind the clouds rising from the western horizon in a mad dash to choke the sky. The temperature drops and sink, and raindrops land on my cheeks. I cover my head with my hands and hope it passes quickly so I can enjoy my first days of spring. But the rain pounds harder in time with my heartbeat. It is officially day 30, which means we are writing our 30th poem, and then we're done. I knew the 30 days would come to an end eventually, right? Like everything finishes. I knew it was going to be just 30 and then done. But I feel like it's such a long time where it no longer feels like a daily chore, but it's more like I've integrated into my daily routine. Like it's just part of what I do every day. That's going to be really strange to wake up tomorrow and not think about, what am I going to write today's poem on, and kind of ruminate on that during the day. I'm going to write more poems in my life. Like this is not the last time I'm going to write poems. Like I'm enjoying it. I want to do more. But I think it'll be nice to kind of take a little bit of a break, maybe even go back to journaling for a bit, because this journal that I've been doing a lot of my poems in, I use it to do kind of daily accounts of events that are memorable to me, or I use it to help muddle through things that I feel. And I thought the poems would kind of replace that, but it's a completely different form of reflection. Like writing a poem where things are more abstract, you're kind of going a little bit deeper in the sense of going to the root of how it feels, what it's like versus a journal entries, maybe more surface level, but you're tackling a lot more like obvious points. And so they do different things, but I think I'm going to make this last poem a little more meta and reflect on my 30-day journey. And then once I do that, we're done. We're done. Also, before I bring this video to a close, I want to touch base on these two books that I was reading. So the Mary Oliver book, I made it about, I think, 3/4 of the way before I just started writing whatever poems I wanted, and I stopped worrying about structure and stuff. And then the Book of Delights were these kind of short snippet essays by Ross Gay, and I read maybe like 5 or 6. They were fun, but also they weren't really what I was into. So yeah, didn't quite finish either of those, but still, I'm just really excited by the fact that I stuck with it for 30 days and I wrote 30 poems. Not all of them are good, but there are a few gems in there. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.